Hello, and welcome to another episode of Burger Town Garage. And here's the Subaru Impreza. So, there's a reason I got the hood up and ratchet strapped up. And that's because we have to take this back to where I found it. We have to take the engine out. Why do we have to take the engine out, you might ask? Well, there's a very explanatory reason, and I'm about to show you. So, here we have the gearbox oil dipstick. Let me go ahead and pull this out. We want to look at it, and if you can tell, it is red tinted, and that should not be red. That should be clear because gear oil is not red. That's got transmission fluid in it, which it's not supposed to. And this one over here, the transmission dipstick, smells like gear oil, and that tells you one thing. Actually, it told me many things yesterday, and I thought I was going to have to put my spare transmission in. But turns out, really all you have to do is replace the seals on the transfer tube on the torque converter. And if you don't know what that is, let me go show you. I have a spare transmission and torque converter over here. And this right here is the transfer tube, to make sure that the transmission fluid gets through the gearbox, gear oil section of the transmission, and all of the fluid goes back into the transmission, obviously. That is one of these seals between this tube have gone bad, which is letting transmission fluid into my gear oil. So, unfortunately, that means I have to pull the engine, which means I have to pull all of this work that I've done here, and that's been running for a while now, but that does give me a very unique opportunity of getting to go over my work and tighten things that should have been tightened, and make sure everything is good, because I didn't do that great of a job putting all this together because it was my first time, and I was kind of rushing it because I was in a tiny little garage. Now, I've got a garage, but it's full of crap, and I've got a driveway. I'm going to be working in the driveway. So, yeah. So I'm going to start with pulling the intake here, which on a naturally aspirated car from, the early 2000s is going to be horribly simple. But yeah, I'm going to try to set up a tripod on this one and do a little better than I usually do with these operations, and actually kind of explain what I'm doing. And yeah, so let's get started. Hey, first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the battery. Obviously. I am going to go ahead and remove it just so I have better access to the plug wires here. It's not anywhere as difficult as it is on a turbo car to get to the plug wires, because there's no extra stuff here. There's no AVCS or any of that getting in the way, so it makes it a lot easier. Of course, I'm going to struggle with this for no reason whatsoever. Going to stay in there, and that one's going to fall out. Oops. Okay, take this out here. Get a table full of crap. Luckily, the coolant seems to have decided to drain itself, so I shouldn't have to mess with that very much. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get some tools. Alright, I'm back with some tools. So, I can't remember what size this was. It's not an 11. Is it a 12? It's not a 12. Is it a 13? It is indeed a 13. These weird little Chinese pot metal battery, whatever. can go ahead and get the battery out here. That's going to go right in the ocean. We finally get this brake cleaner cap that I left in there like a year ago. Okay, what's next? We need to disconnect fuel lines. We need to disconnect the power, which on this one is all pretty much over here. Oh no, sorry, this is the alternator stuff. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it's all back here. This one plug. That's nice. I forgot how simple these older ones were. Oh. See, this is why I do time lapses, because I don't know what I'm doing. And of course, while I have the engine out, I'm more than likely going to be doing, you know, well, that's why they had the coolant bottle out, because you can't get this freaking, or can you? Yep, you can. While the engine's out, I'm probably going to go ahead and spruce up the engine a little bit, you know, do all the stuff that I neglected to do the first time that I put this together. Back when I was a younger, dumber man. Now I'm just older. Take the rest of this intake box off. And normally what I like to do is put all my bolts back where they go if I can. That way when I put everything back together, you know, the bolts that are supposed to go there are there. Well, these aren't oily or anything, so I guess that bodes well for the new valve covers they put in it. Just gonna go ahead and get these out of the way, because why not? Oh, am I bleeding already? Oh, that's not blood. Never mind. False alarm. Oh, those look kind of corroded. Might could use some sprucing up, if you know what I mean. Okay, sorry in advance, but I can't keep doing the tripod videoing what I'm doing constantly, because I am not interesting enough to fill that much time with witty banter and conversation, because I'm also trying to remember what the hell I'm doing here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to disconnect the alternator wire, the alternator charge wire. I'm going to disconnect this and the plug that goes into the power steering pump. And I'm going to start taking the accessories off here so I can get that out of the way. And I may end up pulling the radiator, because I have a new radiator that needs to go in it anyways, and I have to drain the coolant anyway, so I might as well. So let's do that. Okay, alternator is out. All it took was, there's 2 bolts on it. There's one that looks like this. It's going to have a nut in the back, kind of situated like that through this hole here. This nut is welded to this little plate here that keeps it from spinning. So you gotta take that off, and then there's a bolt that goes through this tensioner right here. You gotta take that out, and then the whole thing, you should be able to pivot it up and then kind of wiggle it out. So now that that's out of the way, we got access to our, again, our power steering plug here, and also our oil pressure sensor here, and also our crank sensor down here. You're going to need to plug all 3 of those for when the intake comes off. Now we're going to work on the air conditioning pump bracket here. We're not going to take the pump out of the bracket, or the compressor I should say. So there's going to be one here. I believe these are going to be, I think these are 12. No, they're 14, sorry. So there's one here. There's one back there, which you can kind of get to through here, like if you put your socket on it and then you put the extension down through it, you might be able to kind of wiggle your way onto that. And then of course there's one here and here. And then once you take this off, you can kind of just fold it over into the battery compartment there. Get it out of the way of the intake. Actually, forget everything I said about the last clip. You don't have to take the air compressor or the AC compressor off to get the intake off. You also don't have to take off the power steering pump, because this being a naturally aspirated engine, all of this intake stuff is all just kind of right there. You really don't need to remove most of it. When I put this together, the throttle body was off of it. You know, all this stuff was taken apart because the guys that took it apart really didn't have any idea what they were doing. So it made it a lot more complicated. But now, looking at everything, I realized really all you got to disconnect is a couple of vacuum and PCV lines and the fuel, most of all. The throttle body also has coolant running through it, so you will have to probably drain your coolant at this time. The fuel, you can just kind of there's no pressure, there shouldn't be much pressure on those lines, so you can just disconnect them and kind of put a rag on the end of it and just make sure it, you know, doesn't spill all over the place. This would be a good time also to replace your fuel lines if they're, you know, old or cracking or whatever. Also, your fuel filter is right here, so obviously be a good time to do that as well. So, you know, it's all these little while you're there kind of things that you got to do when you're doing these kinds of things. Because, you know, all this stuff is out. You know, it might be a good time to look at the timing chain or the timing belt. It might be a good time to do your valve cover gaskets or your spark plugs or, you know, any of your other gaskets, because you're going to be disturbing a lot of things in here. So pick your battles. Don't do all this work, put it all back together, and then be like, oh, you know, I really need to check my timing belt because I haven't done that in a while. But now you're pulling a radiator and hoses and fans and all this stuff and all your accessories anyways just to get to the timing belt down there. But it's going to be, it's all going to be taken out anyway, so you might as well. Okay, I got the cap off and I got the petcock open, and we're draining the fluid there, you know, slowly through its little 1/4-inch hole. But my next step here is gonna be, man, I really wish I could get this out of the way. I probably will. Next step is gonna be disconnecting that coolant line there, which I noticed the spring clamp isn't even keeping the hose on the, that's fine. And also there should be another one, yep, right there. So disconnect those two coolant lines, and then just kind of go around and look and see what else we need to disconnect. I still need to disconnect fuel lines, haven't done that yet, but I have my hose clamp tools now, so I can do that. Also, I wanted to look at this right here. There's a lot of slop in these wipers, and I think, yeah, you can see the wipers come all the way down and hit the hood. They should, you know, stay up here, but I'm worried there's some bushing that's gone out or something. I may address that as well while all this is apart. This is going to be kind of like a everything maintenance kind of episode for this car, because, you know, we're discovering all of our sins from the past here. So yeah, got to get everything out in the open here. Okay, so we got our fuel lines undone. We have all our 12 millimeter intake bolts. There's 2 per tube here. We got all of our sensors down here unplugged. Don't forget, there's another one that's kind of hidden underneath. It's a coolant temp sensor. There's a NOx sensor back here, and then don't forget about your 2 big, I guess, connectors down there. And after we get that, we should be good to pull this sucker off. Okay, so we got everything disconnected. Like I said, we got our 2 extra fuel connectors, or 2 extra electrical connectors disconnected. We haven't taken our fuel line off. Hold on, I'm stupid. Why does anybody let me do things? Okay, so this throttle linkage right here, you want to loosen this. Well, this front nut would be all the way kind of up against this plate here, as you can see there. So you want to loosen that all the way up until it's on this front set of threads, and then you're going to pull it back and then up and over. There's a little indentation right there where you can where it'll fit through, and then you just kind of pivot it up, and then you slide this little swage that fits into your throttle body here. Slide that out, and then you can kind of just tuck this up out of the way, and there your throttle's disconnected. Not so stupid now. So as I was saying, now we've got basically everything disconnected, we can go ahead and try to start pulling things. So we'll go ahead and just kind of work your way up. I need to cut these zip ties, don't I? Yep. You know, I have very professional methods of securing all of my important things here. So, should get out of my friggin' way, please. There we go. There we go. Okay, where's my coolant? Okay, coolant is in the back. Just kind of lift it up. Find the plug. Make stupid faces, and then disconnect. There we go. And then just kind of work it up out. And I got everything. Look at that. Wow. And there you have it. There is the intake disconnected. Now you can look at things like, remember how you forgot to or neglected to change your coolant passover O-rings underneath these. And there have been a couple times I've noticed there was coolant up under here. Let's see, our gaskets, they look okay, but I'm gonna change them out anyways, just because, you know, they've had an intake sitting around on them, and you know, why not? We're gonna keep them around just in case, you know, but we don't need them right now. Go ahead and look in our intake passages here, and everything looks hunky-dory. A little bit of green right there. I wonder what that's from. That's weird. Over here, everything looking okay. Don't have any valves hung open, unless they're supposed to be. And we're going to want to go ahead and get some tape on those bad boys so we don't get anything we don't need in the engine there. So next up is going to be finishing the removal of our accessories here. And then of course your power steering pump is going to fold over this way. Your AC compressor is going to fold over this way. I may end up just removing this because I need to replace this one anyway because it's leaking all my Freon out constantly. So I may end up taking the bolts out, and of course you're going to want to evacuate the system, etc., EPA stuff. You know, don't just let it vent to atmosphere. It's all very toxic for the turtles and such. So yeah, let's get to doing that. Okay, so next I went ahead and put all the bolts back where they in the intake where they go here, so as to not lose my motif. I know I said I was going to work on the accessories next, and I will, but also I'm going to pull the radiator fans and the radiator and the lower hose. I did pull the upper hose here as well. So just keep unhooking everything that goes from the engine to the car, and we'll have this out in probably like an hour, maybe. Well, it has been a couple of minutes at least, but now I've got this car cover that I had in the garage just kind of hung up here because I needed some shade because it's getting a little toasty out there. But anyways, I've got the radiator out, and you can see just how bent up, well, maybe you can, just how bent up this condenser is. Obviously this was involved in a wreck. Here you can see this piece of metal just kind of sticking out there. So I'm thinking about taking the front bumper back off and kind of beating all the sheet metal back out to where it's supposed to be. Is it ideal? No, but it probably needs a new condenser anyway, so it probably doesn't have anything to do with the Compressor's probably fine. It probably just needs a new condenser, which is fine. I can do that, but not now. So this is how far I've gotten. I've gotten all the accessories off as promised, and I found out there was some weird length bolts going on in here, and yeah, apparently the stuff I do isn't, or when I'm up against a wall, the things that I do are a little questionable. So I believe next we have the starter and the torque mount for the transmission, so we can, you know, move it up and down. Then I need to rotate the engine over and get all the torque converter bolts off. Then I need to get up underneath. I need to remove the header. I need to remove the motor mounts, and I think that's it. So yeah, update when I get those done. Alright, so underneath the car we got the header disconnected, and I also have both engine mount bolts disconnected. So we are getting to about the point where we might need to jack up the engine soon, but first I'm gonna do, or jack up the car, I mean. First we're gonna rotate the crank, which I can almost do by hand. And then we're gonna remove our 4 torque converter bolts. Alright, here we go. Got everything disconnected, I think. And we're gonna start picking up on the engine here and see what comes off and what doesn't. Oh, you know what? Didn't disconnect the torque mount. One second, please. And just like that, the engine's out. Would you look at that? So easy. So, now's a good time to inspect all your handiwork. You know, any gaskets need changed, or, you know, you can take this off and get to your timing system. You can leak coolant everywhere, if that's your thing. This always happens. It doesn't matter if you like vacuum the whole system out, you're always going to get coolant leaking out of whatever engine you pull. It's the rules. I don't make them, I just try not to follow them. But so the reason we got all of this out was to fix that. So let's go ahead and get this thing in the garage and out of the way, and then we can soldier on with what we came here to do in the first place. And now all there is to do, if you're just doing this job, which it never is just this job, is it? Now all you want to do is you just want to get your torque converter out carefully. This one appears to be slightly stuck. Doesn't want to come out of there. There it goes. Oh, and there she is. There's the baby girl. Oh, oh boy. So, now that your hands are all covered in Earl, it's okay, that's what we got shop towels for. Now, you can drop your shop towels, and you can continue to struggle immensely. Okay, so now, the seal that we're going to be replacing, as soon as I get one, is this one right here. And this O-ring. Sorry, this O-ring right here, which that's very hard and non-pliable. And we wanted to make sure that this was actually going to be stuck on here with the spring, which it does appear to be, but we're probably going to pop that off. Or I don't know if we need to pop it off, but I think there's an O-ring here and an O-ring here, if I'm not mistaken. But this O-ring is also, oh sorry, this O-ring here, I believe there's one here too. This one feels like it's made out of plastic, so we may need to replace that one also. But we're going to play that one by ear. For now, though, car is going to basically remain taken apart until I can get parts, which should be hopefully today, but maybe not. If not today, then I guess this car is just gonna sit here taken apart for a little while longer. I'd really like to get this. Man, the camera doesn't do it justice with how bent up it is. There's like a bow out portion right here, and then it bends back in and around over here. I don't know. But yeah, so that's how to remove your engine. I might do like a 2-part series on this one because it's taken me a while to get to this point. Longer than I thought it would, unfortunately. But we're gonna do some cleanup. I may bring the power washer in here and just soak everything real good in some degreaser. It's been leaking a little bit of everything, unfortunately. So yeah, if I don't see you again on this episode, I'll catch you for the next one. So it's the next day, and I've decided to continue working on my EJ25 I got sitting here. So last thing I did was I pulled the oil pump off here and discovered that the crank seal had gone bad. I have a picture. I don't know if I took a video of it, but you can clearly see the oil dripping down from here. So it wasn't dripping from any of the RTV like I thought it had been. It was only dripping from that one crank seal. And I have, thanks to my buddy Carlos, I have a couple that may work here. Looking like that might be it. Because of course the one that's on there is non-OEM, so I can't necessarily just check by size or check by the number on it. We also have some of these O-rings here for the oil passage, which I think that's it. And yes, it is. So I'll just go ahead and stuff that in there for now. Cool. So that'll be new. The one that was in there is that one, and that one's pretty chewed up. So not sure what happened there, but I'm going to go ahead and pull the seal out, find out whichever one of these matches the best, and go ahead and get it swapped out. Okay, so made some progress on the engine here, and then I got all the timing system put back together. I found out the way I was timing it before that this cam was a tooth off to the right, so everything should be fine now. So I was probably running maybe a little bit advanced or something. Maybe it wasn't running full power, and that would actually explain a lot about this car. Because I mean, it ran slow, and I figured, yeah, they're slow, but I didn't think they were that slow. So maybe I'll pick up a couple extra horsepower with this. Also, my intake bolts for the runners, they were all loose, like just barely more than hand tight. So I definitely need to pay more attention when I'm putting this engine together this time. But I got the new crank seal in there. I got the new oil pump seal. And now I just need to wait on the seal for the transmission, which I have ordered through Subaru. This one right here, I already have it pulled out, cleaned up and ready to go. So yeah, as soon as I get that and this O-ring right here replaced, then I can start throwing the engine back in, start throwing all the extra crap that I said I was going to throw in there. I may get to some things. I don't think I'm going to get to the condenser, unfortunately. It's just don't have the time for it. But I'm going to get it running again, and then we'll see if we can make any progress on other things as well. Okay, so it's been a couple of days, like a week maybe. I got some seals from Subaru. I got the front oil seal, which is already on the transmission. I already got that new one installed. I got a new O-ring there, and I got this seal here, which is already installed. So for the easy seals I can get to on the transmission, they've already been replaced. I also tried to pour ATF in this like an idiot, and now it's a huge blood stain. I need to get more ATF because I don't have enough. But right now, I'm going to be draining the front gearbox and the transmission because they're all intermixed and everything, and I want to try to get as much of that contamination out as possible so that everything continues to run smoothly. So, let me get some tools out, get ready, and then we'll start draining that fluid down there and hopefully get this torque converter back in the transmission today. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our torque converter with our new seals. Oh, yeah, this thing's heavy. Ooh, okay. Line it up. There we go. We're all the way seated, which is good. I did drain all of the gear oil and all of the transmission oil out of the bottom here, and I did replace the transmission filter, so that should be good to go. So now we got the torque converter in there. I guess we're ready to go back in with the engine. Why not? Alright, now we got the torque converter in. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jack up the transmission, we'll angle it up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get the engine back in. Okay, let's go ahead and get the engine over here. Actually, hang on a bit, the lawnmower guys are here. Alright, so, let's try that again. All the distractions have left. And I mean that in a nice way, of course. Let's go ahead and get this engine in. I still need to run to O'Reilly's and pick up some transmission fluid. I need gear oil. I need coolant, and I need engine oil, because all of that stuff had to be drained out to get this done. Carefully over the center here. Back a little bit. Okay, looks like we're pretty centered here, so let's start lowering her down. Carefully. I did check the, I also checked the spark plugs as well as, oh, we need to move those hoses. Right here. I did check the spark plugs, make sure everything was kosher, and they look almost perfect. Which is weird considering that the timing was a tooth off. I don't actually know how much that would even affect the engine running. I know it would affect it, but I don't know by how much. Okay, we're down, we're not hitting anything, cool. I'm going to stop about there. we're not getting caught on anything. This way, here, and more. Those look pretty close. Let's see. You're indeed pretty close. The transmission is kind of at an angle whenever you lift it. Okay, got both bottom bolts kind of started. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tilt it up with those bolts in there and then shove it. Just like that. And then down a little bit. Then what I want to do is drop some stuff. Okay, that is where it needs to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the transmission jack. Just go ahead and lower it all the way so that this can hopefully settle down into its engine mounts, which it appears to have just done. Wow, this is so much easier than it was the last time I did this. Let me go ahead and make sure that the engine mount bolts are actually where they're supposed to be. That was by far the easiest engine stab I've ever done. By far. I'm actually going to get one of these top bolts started over here. Go ahead and get that tight so I can take the jack off. It's pretty tight. Make sure nothing else is moving. And then lower it the rest of the way. And there she is. Engine's back in the car. Simple as that. Now I can take all these intake bolts off. There's something above my head. I am going to leave these bolts in their holes though, so I don't lose them. Because there's nothing guaranteeing that I will finish all of this today. I would like to, but it's supposed to be 90 degrees today. In the middle of a friggin' October. So that's cool. It's supposed to be a high of like 60, high 60s, low 70s tomorrow, which is great. I'd like to be driving this by then, so I can give my WRX some time to rest, you know. It's been daily driving for a while, and it doesn't have the best tires on it right now because I traded wheels with my buddy, and they're actually the original wheels off of this car when I got it, you know, in a field in Arkansas somewhere. So they're not the best tires ever. Okay, well, go ahead and get the stand out of here, and we can continue getting the engine all bolted up and getting the transmission bolts in and the torque arm and then the intake. Okay, so I got coolant done, I got transmission fluid filled. I'll have to check it after I get it started. I got diff fluid done, I got fuel lines, I got oil in it, I got a fan because it was getting pretty toasty. Oh, I got the covering off just because it was time to take it off. But we're gonna try to start it for the first time in, I don't know, 2 weeks. Okay, so we got power. We are in park. Okay. Here goes nothing. Interesting. Okay. Further diagnosis is required. Okay, let's try that again. I think I had the fuel lines backwards. Oil light went out. Okay, everything's looking like it should. Okay, let's go check, see, make sure nothing's leaking. Nothing's on fire. There's some stuff burning off the manifolds, but that's fine. I don't see any transmission fluid leaking or anything. No coolant. Cool. Everything else looks pretty good. It does seem like it runs a little better with the timing correct. Weird. Who'd have thunk? Anyways, oh, right. I need to check transmission fluid before I set it off. So I'm going to check that real quick because I can't do it with one hand, and I'll be back in a sec. And that is going to be it for this video. The Impreza's back together. It's running. Drove it up and down the street. You know, no major concerns. Just drives. There was a little vibration that I think ended up being the there's a bolt on the catback that wasn't in, so I kind of just threw one in there. I don't know if it's the right one, but we'll see. But anyways, that is going to do it for this video, and hopefully this was at least entertaining, if not somewhat informative. And if you like to see more videos like this, or just in automotive style in general, give me a follow, give me a like, hit some notifications. I don't know. I only post about like once a month, but man, look at that. Look at that sunset. Hold on. That's gonna be a good one. Anyways, so that's gonna do it for me. This took like a week and a half to make, so this is going to be probably one of my more ambitious videos. But yeah, hope you like it. See you in the next one. Peace.